How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here. After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, streaming live on YouTube at 4wonline.com/YouTube, as well as Twitch, twitch.tv/F4W video. And we are here every Wednesday, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. And we have a very exciting show today. Yes, Stan Deyo returns to the show. He was on several weeks ago, actually. And, man, we had a lot to talk about, including his discovery of the historic Garden of Eden. We got a couple of different questions from listeners in the chat today, Twitch and YouTube. I also want to talk to him about some other things that he discusses, including UFOs and prophecy. And we had a request here to ask him questions about the Bermuda Triangle. So if you have questions for Stan Deyo, I will open up the text message line. You can also email me. The email address is brian@afterdarkradioshow.com. That is brian@afterdarkradioshow.com. And the text message line is 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. If you listen to The Wrestling Show, same number for text messages. Any questions for Stan, you can send them there. So we got a lot to talk to him about. And last week on this program, we had a fun guest as well. She will also be returning a couple months down the road. We were talking about who's who in the Cosmic Zoo. So when we get that set up, I'll give you guys a date, and you can send in questions regarding that as well. But Stan Deyo's website, standeyo.com. You can head up there, pretty much check out everything that he talks about. And if you have any ideas for questions, you're welcome to send those to me via text message or email, brian@afterdarkradioshow.com, 425-780-7566. Back in a moment with more After Dark Radio Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, After Dark Radio Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. And very happy today to be joined once again by Stan Deyo, who was on not that long ago, actually. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about here today. Happy to have you back. How you doing, Stan?
Hey, doing fine. I've been glued to the TV day and night here. Well, both of us have, Holly and I, watching what's happening in the Middle East because it's going to affect us.
You know, we don't talk a lot of politics here on this show, but you have written a lot about end times prophecies, and there's a lot going on in the Middle East. And what are your thoughts? Is this it?
Well, when you say it, do you mean like Armageddon?
I mean, some people would ask that question, yeah.
Well, no, I don't think this is Armageddon, but will there be a conflict, that potentially could spread to a global nuclear war? Yes. I think, not being political about it at all, I'm just saying that the threat from Iran to the United States and Israel is that they want to take us out, and they have for decades, totally destroy us, take us out of the picture. Now, when a country does that and has gained access to nuclear weapons, which could absolutely kill Israel and probably wound us pretty bad too, we have to pay attention to it. There's no other country on the earth threatening the United States and or Israel like this with a nuclear weapon other than Russia and China, and they're being quiet about it. They're not really threatening us. They're just being disagreeable. Now, in biblical prophecy, you did mention that, there is a mention of the city of Damascus in Syria being wiped out overnight, becoming a ruinous heap overnight. Now, in that area of Syria, there have been for thousands of years eruptions of volcanoes that fizzle out. They're like magma flows rather than these huge eruptions. And it's laid lava deposits all over Syria, that portion of Syria. And some of them are close to Damascus. Now, when these lava deposits cool and they form these black lava rock stacks or mounds, the locals call them ruinous heaps, just like the Bible calls them in the prophecy. Now, I've talked about this before on my website and other shows. There are at least 10 known bases that Iran has around Damascus to store weapons, missiles, drones, et cetera. And they've also got some troops over there in one base there in Damascus, the Iranians do. So that is very close to being fulfilled if the United States or Israel decide that Iran has put a nuclear missile or more in one of those 10 bases around Damascus. Now, the Iranians have hidden things, like 30 stories underground, in one place in the northeastern Iran. And that's what they're talking about on the news, about needing a bunker buster bomb to go down 30 floors deep, 300 feet deep, and destroy that enrichment plant there. If the Iranians are clever, they have moved their missiles and possibly their nuclear warhead that they already have over into Damascus underground. Now, they would have to go on the border between Turkey and Iraq. I'm sure they get permission to go scooting along the border there and then go underground to hide this thing around Damascus somewhere. Now, there are many reasons that we would, United States or Israel would want to attack Damascus and destroy the close attack point, because it's like a fourth of the distance that missiles would have to go from Iran to Israel to go from Damascus to Israel. So the United States and Israel realize that probably the best solution is going to be to take out the missile storage sites at Damascus. Very close. And, if the United States and or Israel do not strike Damascus, but yet an age-old event happens and an eruption occurs of magma underneath Damascus, a rather big one, and wipes out Damascus overnight. If that happens, the world is going to say, was this an act of God, or was there some way America or the Israelis figured out how to trigger that eruption of lava? And with this doubt in mind, the world is going to be, expecting the eruption of a war of significant size and possibly the invasion of the United States and bombing the United States with nuclear missiles. Now, I know that this is all a lot to compress into one short show like this, but there are reasons to keep your eye on Damascus. There are logical reasons, tactical and strategic reasons, both for Iran to have facilities there around Damascus to launch a nuclear weapon in northern Israel, to northern Israel. So what do you think about them apples?
Well, we've had a lot of people on this show that have talked about prophecy, and there's kind of two, you of course remember prior to 2012, there were all of these stories about 2012 and what was going to happen in 2012, and, 2012 came and went, and, I can remember as long as I've been alive, every, the world's going to end on this day, my mom remembers hearing that when she was a kid, and, there's always stories of the end times being imminent. And, some people would say, well, it's kind of egotistical to presume the end times are going to occur in your specific lifetime. But that does beg the question to you. I mean, in your lifetime, do you believe that we're nearing the end times, or do you think that we probably have some time to go?
Brian, I think we're at the doorway to the 7 years of tribulation the Bible speaks of. There's actually 10 years if you count the 3-year prelude to the 7 years. But the situation talking about, Israel being little Satan and America being great Satan and both of us being attacked by Iran, this situation is a clear and present danger. Now, not only am I relating this to biblical prophecy, but in 1996, Holly and I were invited down to the Shangopavi tribe of the Hopi nation. And we met with the prophecy keeper there in his home, where he revealed prophecy to the young members of his tribe there. And he did so because I was the 5th of 8 messengers they would receive. And at those times, those messengers come and go. Prophecy has to be explained at that moment to the tribe. And his explanation at my visit was that there was going to be a massive civil war, multi-sided, multifaceted civil war in the United States, and that in the light of this, the chaos within the United States would allow Russia and China and one Middle Eastern nation, he didn't name it, to attack both by air and by land and by sea the United States and totally cripple us. Destroy us up to the point of not wanting to stay there anymore, and that after they'd done that, they would then withdraw their troops and aircraft and whatever and go back home and do whatever they're going to do after that. But that America would be, for all intents and purposes, destroyed as a functioning national unit on the planet and, a major player in the game. So that's what the Hopi said. Now, biblical prophecy dealing with the United States, I don't know. It might be. There was one prophecy that said that those at the time of the tribulation who are dwelling safely in the isles, thinking that they're safe and secure, will sudden destruction be upon them. And, this kind of sounds like it could be what the Hopi were talking about. Again, I'm not pedantic on the dates, but I do see events shaping up to a confrontation that is, it's going to be painful. And President Trump knew this and knows it, and he did tell before the election even the adjustment to the United States as it was before the election is precipitous, is dangerous, and correcting what the left wing had done to the country was going to be a painful exercise for the entire country. So he said it's going to be painful, and he means it. And personally, I don't think that he or any other leader of this country in these times could avoid going into a confrontation with Russia, China, and possibly Iran.
Well, hold that thought right there. We have to head to a break. We'll be back in just a moment with more After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Talk Radio. Bryan Alvarez here. Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, streaming live, YouTube, Twitch. Stan Deo's our guest today, standeo.com. And we were talking before about everything going on in the Middle East. And the last time you were on the show, we were talking about various biblical topics, including the... We just lost him. Stand by, everybody. We'll see if we can get him back here. That was unfortunate. Let's just try it again. Live here on the air. Landline.
Hello.
Stan.
Day of Enterprises.
Nope, there we go. All right. Hold on 1 second here. I'm just going to try again. It's always this show. You guys ever notice that? It's just... This goes wrong, that goes wrong. We just barrel on through. Try it again. Let's give it a shot here.
You hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, hold on. Try again.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah, we got cut off there all of a sudden.
Yes, we did. We got dropped. It only happens on this show that weird stuff like this happens. I guess that's just par for the course. But
that's because you're reaching a lot of people. All right, go on.
Last time you were on the show, we were talking about various your discovery of the Garden of Eden. I think we talked a little bit about Atlantis, and I think we were going to talk about the Ark of the Covenant. And the historical Ark of the Covenant, does it still exist? Where is it? What can you tell us about this topic?
Well, there are a fair amount, I guess. There are a number of places that are suggested by analyzing history and movements of it. And one is that King Solomon had a son with... what's her name over in the Ethiopia area there, Queen of Sheba, and the first son was Menelik the first, and that he came back to Israel when he was a grown man, and he took the Ark of the Covenant back to the Ethiopia region there to hide it, keep it safe. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but there's been a series of priests that have guarded what is supposed to be the Ark of the Covenant inside this building there, and for generations. No one is allowed to go in and talk to him. He has helpers that stay with him. He never leaves the compound, where they think they have the Ark of the Covenant. He's there for life after he gets appointed. Now, okay, is it there? I don't know. There was a duplicate made of the Ark of the Covenant to fool invaders, like the Babylonians at the time. But then there's a tale in the Bible that says that that the Ark was taken out of Israel and put into Mount Nebo, and that the Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king at the time, authorized it, and he sent an armed, troop with the scribes and the prophecy keepers there in Israel to take the Ark of the Covenant from Jerusalem over to Har Nebo, and they would allow the Israelis to then go up to the top of Nebo and hide the Ark of the Covenant, and then they would come down and tell the troop that was accompanying them that they have hidden it, go see if you can find it. And so when the Babylonians, the troops went up to the top, they searched and searched and couldn't find the Ark of the Covenant, so it was assumed that it was sufficiently hidden and accepted to be there. Now, I know that before the time of King David, when the Ark of the Covenant had been stolen by a neighboring country, that country within a year or so gave it back to Israel because it caused sores to break out on everybody that came close to it in their country. Now, I think that was radiation burns from the frequencies coming out of the Ark, but whatever reason, they didn't want to keep it. So up in Mount Nebo, if there were any, animal herds or people up in there, they might also have suffered this, but we have heard no reports of that. So I put that report as spurious. Now, we know that the Egyptian period where Israel was slaves there, that they knew the secrets of how to build trapdoors in pyramids. And there were two pillars in the temple in Jerusalem, Boaz and Yakin, and these could have held sand, and could have had a knock opening where you hit on a certain lever, and it would sink the whole Holy of Holies area there down underneath the temple, and hide it with a big slab stone coming over the top and maybe on the sides. And we think, those of us that studied it closely, that the Ark of the Covenant is either at the end of the terminus bus line in Jerusalem, where the buses turn around. And there's a mound there that looks like a skull with two eyes, Golgotha Hill, and either there or down underneath there, over underneath where the old Temple Mound was, and you can, and that's behind the Wailing Wall there, and there's a way that you can get into that through a back door, which I've used. And at the time that I used it, they had already locked off an access way underneath the temple, and there's about a 20,000 ton, rock that's a slab that is blocking the way for you to get into there from this little tunnel that goes to it from the Kohanim tunnel behind the Wailing Wall. They sealed it off with metal gates and locks and stuff, and prevented any further research in that area to image behind that stone. And I've looked at other old infrared photographs taken over the Temple Mount, and they show ancient pathways that are under dirt now, leading up to what could be a room underneath where the Holy of Holies was, and could have been hidden by these stones dropped down by the old Egyptian pyramid trick. Lambert Dolphin took a team over during Perez's reign there, or rule as a prime minister. And the day that Dolphin's team with the cameras and imaging equipment were going to go into that tunnel and image behind that stone to see if there was a room there, Nimrod Novak, who was Perez's assistant, authorized the police to block them and prevent them from entering it, and that's when the doors were locked or put on and locked at that channel. I tend to think, for a number of reasons, that the Ark, if it's still functioning or still here, is in there. Israeli legend says that when they do find it and reopen it, that it will magically come back to life, and that the curtains and the support rods for the whole compound, for the Ark of the Covenant, everything will come back to new as it was at the time of the temple or the tabernacle in the wilderness, which was not the one in solid stone there. So anyway, I kind of put my focus of where it is in Jerusalem underground somewhere, either at Golgotha Hill or under the old Temple Mount, down several stories. A long way to explain it, but that's
sure.
What I feel.
Now you mentioned the pyramids, and there have been a lot of news stories of late about chambers potentially being underneath the Great Pyramid or the Great Sphinx. They've done like ground-penetrating radar, and they're big empty spaces. I mean, there's always been stories of a Hall of Records underneath the Great Pyramids or the Sphinx. I mean, there have been stories about biblical artifacts being underneath the Great Pyramid or the Sphinx. What do you make of these stories? Do you think there is something under there? And if so, what do you believe it is?
I believe there will be a discovery of like a library of information, and perhaps some other devices and things underneath the left paw of the Sphinx, down deep, and they've already started imaging it with a new kind of deep penetrating imaging system. And they can see a cylindrical chamber down deep there underneath the left paw. Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, did say that there would be a new library found underneath the Sphinx, and I think he said the paw as well, and that would open up a lot of history to us that we didn't know before. Now, also, evidence showing that the Sphinx was underwater at a time, perhaps at the flood, whatever, that the Sphinx was older than people realized, and put it back like 9,000-10,000 years ago, and that it was there before Egypt started building pyramids around it. Now this is because the Atlantean tales of Atlantis was all of Saudi Arabia, and it's right next door to where the pyramids are built and where the Sphinx was, and there may be information there about technology and all kinds of things that the Atlanteans, who were fallen angels, they were bad guys, built, and they stored there because for such a thing as happened now, that they'd be able to share that information with later generations. So, yeah, I think that we're going to find something down there, just enough pointers to it in current times, by either the sleeping prophet or by scientific analysis of underneath the Sphinx, that tells me that it's a very old source and could be what was lost, some of it in the loss of the Library of Alexandria when it sank. Just I kind of hold my breath and wait for it, because the technology they used is not widely acclaimed at the moment to image under the paws, but there is something there.
All right, we're going to head to a break, and when we come back, we got a couple of questions from people in the chat room, and I can tell you right now, we got people asking about the Holy Grail, and also if you have anything that you can talk about regarding the Bermuda Triangle. So those are two questions we're going to tackle after the break, and I got one other as well. So stand by, everybody. Back in a moment with more After Dark Radio Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Back on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Stan Deyo is our guest today, standeyo.com. And I wanted to ask this question before we get into the Holy Grail here. So you mentioned with the Ark of the Covenant, the boils, etc., and perhaps there was some radiation or something as a result that resulted in these things. And I could have this totally wrong, but I remember reading stories about how there are certain areas of the Middle East where if you dig down, you come across what appears to be just like it's a sheet of glass. And the idea is that, well, you know, the only way the ground would have like become a sheet of glass is intense high heat. And, you know, people then argue, well, maybe there was something, you know, was this a nuclear detonation from way back? Did they have technology that we don't know about? Obviously, if the Ark of the Covenant allegedly was radioactive, I mean, what do you make of these stories? Have you heard anything about this? Have I got it totally wrong?
Yeah, I've heard things and investigated a number of them. The nuclear blast stories are kind of linked to the Indus River Valley, you know, in India, there on the western side of India. And there were two ancient cities, Harappas and the other one was a city, well, it was one that the son of Adam, Cain, built. It's either Harappas or the other one. But what happened was when they excavated, they found you know, an advanced civilization with you know, plumbing systems of stone and stuff to take, you know, water to and from.
Was it Mohenjo-Daro?
Yeah, Mohenjo-Daro, sorry. And they found skeletons, you know, that were laying flat, all facing in a certain direction, not curled up, but like they'd been blown down flat. And the pottery and stuff in that Mohenjo-Daro was fused as though it had been in an oven in a kiln, which is, you know, a symbol or a symptom of a nuclear blast, fusing the either the sand or whatever stone it was into a glass-type mound, you know, a ruin. And so all these things do indicate there's even residual radiation, but not very much. But it's above the normal background count in Mohenjo-Daro. And as I said, Cain got his wife from the east of the Garden of Eden. And if you look at where I've placed the Garden of Eden by, you know, tracing it and finding all the clues, it is, you know, on the northeast portion of Africa, and the east of that would be India when it's still connected to Africa. And so Cain, having selected a bride from there, went over to live there. And the Indus River Valley, the name Indus is from Indu, which is an ancient Hebrew verb, meaning the men shall wander as fugitives. And I've tried to find out any information about why a particular sect of Indians wear the red dot, the bindi, on their forehead, and it's like a blood mark. And I suspected it came from the fact that Cain had gone over and lived in that area, and that was to remember that that was the land where the one marked by blood mark who had killed his brother settled, and they built these two cities. Anyway, there's a lot of pros and cons in that argument, but I do believe that that's where Cain got his wife and where he spent his last days over in India.
Now,
and funnily enough,
go ahead.
You know, funnily enough, a lot of the ancient, you know, sites named in India, like the Brahmaputra River, means in Hebrew the reverence for God, the Creator. You know, really subjected. You know, where you bend down, genuflect, that type of worship to God, the Creator. So, why did ancient Hebrew appear there before it appeared elsewhere? There's just a lot of questions that are raised by investigating the old language names in India, which are really kind of Hebrew. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you there. Go ahead.
No. We've had people asking about the Holy Grail. I don't even think the Holy Grail is mentioned in the Bible, correct?
Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Sorry, yeah, you cut out for a second.
Sorry. Yeah, people asking about the Holy Grail. Is the Holy Grail even mentioned in the Bible?
No, not in that respect, but it came from the Arthurian legends, you know, the Knights of the Round Table and all that.
Yes.
And they would make this quest to go find the Holy Grail, which was reputed to be the cup that Jesus drank from at the Last Supper there that he had with his, disciples, and that it was taken by the disciples, and they stored the blood, or some of the blood from Jesus on the cross, in that cup, and therefore it was a holy artifact. And of course, legend says that it would, give you life and stuff if you drank of it. But I think this is all symbolism, because the thing that held the blood of Jesus was Jesus himself. His body was the thing they sought, and when you accept his sacrifice for his letting of blood, you become, you have everlasting life. And that's the secret to it. It's faith in Jesus. And so a physical cup, okay, there was probably one there at the Last Supper, but I don't think that that's the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is Jesus himself. And I know they sent a lot of expeditions, Knights Templar and everything, went over and dug all kinds of things out of the dirt underneath the old Temple Mount. But this has just been a misdirected quest, I think, to spread the Christian message in their own way. But if you think about it, Jesus he rose from the dead there. He had his blood. He was the container of the blood, and it's by his blood we are saved into everlasting life. It has the same mystical properties that they give to the Grail as though it were a cup. So anyway, that's my opinion of the Holy Grail legends.
Why were the Knights Templar so fascinated with historical biblical relics?
Well, I guess number one, it was to prove the authenticity of the Christian religion against the Islamic religion. The Templars were there up until the last moment there, until the Arabs took over Jerusalem, Israel as well, obviously. And it was a war between the two of them, between, faith in Muhammad type faith or faith in the Christian faith. So they needed to have objects, things to prove that their version of what happened there in Jerusalem was correct, and not the one presented by the Mohammedans. So I think that was what it was, a battle between Christianity, a very central Christianity, and the Islamic, they call it a religion, but I think it's more like a business. Anyway, this competition with the two of them has continued up until now. And what do we find? Christian Jewish fronts against Islamic fronts in the Middle East. It still continues to this day. And so that's what they were trying to do, was to win that conflict ideologically against Islam, and to put people on the true path. In spite of the fact that the Templars, had a money business transferring, credits, money across, country borders and stuff, they were really trying to spread Christianity, and to prove it, they were apologists of a type. And so by digging in the ruins and finding artifacts, like Longinus, the spear of Longinus that pierced Jesus' side when he was declared dead, all these things they sought to prove that they were right and that the Mohammedans were wrong.
If you look back, not just in biblical texts, but all sorts of ancient texts, and not even just like written texts, but you can go all the way back to cave drawings. There's weird drawings, there's bizarre stories, stories of wars and weapons and flying machines, and there's, this is the whole ancient astronaut theory that people espouse. And I guess, the question to you would be, what stock do you put in some of these different stories? Do you think that maybe the vast majority of these were tales that were told, allegories, etc., or do you think there's a historical basis for some or most of it?
Well, there's a lot of tales that, let me try to just go into one central tale. The ancient astronaut theory, based upon the technology and the ruins and stuff they've left behind, and drawings on the pyramids and drawings on various other things and caves and stuff. it points to a civilization, a group of people coming to Earth with advanced technology and living with mankind and interacting with it. Now, in the biblical sense, they are beings from the parallel universe around us, the third heaven the Bible speaks of, where God dwells. And there was a war in heaven, and there was a rebellion by a third of the angels against the Creator, God, and Elyon. Now, these rebellious angels were cast down to earth, and they've been, since they've arrived here, under the direction of Satan, Lucifer. And since the early part of their arrival here, they came down, I think 200 of them came down at once on Mount Hermon, and they passed technology to the humans at the time, all through Saudi Arabia. And that led to a lot of the legends of the demigods like Atlas and Hercules and all this stuff in the Greek pantheon of demigods. These were advanced beings that were cast down to our universe, a parallel universe to the Creator's universe, which loosely links to the three levels of heaven mentioned in the Bible: the lower level, the level we're in, and the third level where God and His created beings live. So the evidence of a superior technology is there. I grant the ancient aliens that. But as far as coming from other planets and this kind of stuff and being our elder brothers from space, I think that is not a provable thing. Are they extraterrestrials? Yes, they were created off Earth in the third heaven, and then they rebelled and came down here to fight this final battle against God in the Armageddon stories. So I give credence to a number of the drawings and things that have been found about advanced technology in the pyramid hieroglyphics and other places that the ancient alien show has brought forward. There's no denying it. But the only thing I encourage people to think about is whether they are really from, some parallel stars or some parallel existence, star systems and planets in this universe, the second, heaven. And I don't think that they are. They are local beings cast down to Earth and are getting ready for the final battle by making advanced technology, using humans to the raw materials and to build and test these things, UFOs and that kind of stuff. So I think that in that respect, we have to be careful when the full disclosure is made of aliens, coming to help us. They're going to put a really tremendous argument forward saying, look, Jesus was one of our kind, one of our brothers, and we even have videos, soundtracks, etc., of the crucifixion. We were there. And so we have come back to help you solve your planet and, bring peace and safety. We're going to get rid of the little grays and the big grays that have been abducting people. They're bad. We're getting rid of them. And, we're going to get rid of the deep state that has been running the planet for a while. We're going to bring you peace, love, and harmony and all that kind of stuff. And the Bible, Jesus himself warns about this great deception at the end times, where Satan and his minions will pose to be angels of light, and his angels, Jesus' angels, and they're going to be lying. So just beware that there's a great deception coming, and
All right.
I think it will appear.
Oh, go ahead. We're gonna head to a break. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap it up. Great Deception, After Dark Radio. Bryan Alvarez here, After Dark Radio. Stan Deyo is joining us here today. And during the break, I messaged our producer about getting Stan back on to talk about aliens next time, which we really haven't had a chance to tackle yet, except briefly in that last segment. So a lot to get into there on that topic.
You know, we can also talk about the search that mankind is doing now for a constantly renewable source of energy to run the planet based on the sun and various other techniques. But there is a source of energy in the Earth's gravitational field that is everywhere. We need to talk about that.
All right, yeah, I'll put that down on the list here. And we're almost out of time today. We got about 60 seconds. StanDeyo.com is the website. And basically everything you need to know about Stan is up there. And you can get links to pretty much everything. But Stan, tell us what's on the website very quickly.
Oh, it's a link to my current podcast once a week with Truth Be Told Network. And there are links that you can click on there, and also watch on demand some of the videos I've made there on X and on Rumble. And our books, they're, Dare to Prepare, which is very pertinent now. And also, that's written by Holly, my wife, and she wrote another book called Prophetic Perils, End Time Events Revealed. And it's very important to get that book because she looked at old prophecies about war in the Middle East and two wars, that she's given them the modern names of those countries that were used in biblical prophecy, which were, places unfamiliar to us by those names. So, Prophetic Perils, to see what's happening now in biblical prophecy, and Dare to Prepare to get yourself ready to survive, nuclear attacks in your neighborhood, stuff like that.
All right. Well, thank you, Stan. We're totally out of time, but StanDeyo.com is the website address. Check it out, all of the books, the podcasts, and more. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. After Dark Radio Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.